This is my neighbor, Charles McGonegal. I'd like you to meet him. I think he's an interesting fellow. Watch him shaving, for instance. What's unusual about that? Well, Charlie has no hands. No hands other than those ingenious substitutes. But he does things as easily and as casually as any other man. And now he's shaving, with a razor like mine and stroking like I do. Before he began shaving this morning, he did the same things that other men do when they wake up. He growled when he heard the alarm clock, and he turned the alarm clock off, and then he got dressed. You know, if it were difficult for Charlie, the problem of his shaving could be solved as easily as walking to the corner barber shop. Quite a few men have barbers shave them, but the majority do it themselves, and Charlie has patterned his life after every man. He maintains that if you think normally, there's no reason why you shouldn't act normally. A fella can get by without the use of his hands if other people help him. But Charlie prefers to be independent. It never occurred to him before World War I to have somebody else brush and comb his hair. And after a grenade exploded and blew his hands off in France, he figured there still wasn't anyone living who would handle a McGonegal cowlick better than McGonegal. Tying a shoelace is a little trickier. I'd say that it takes Charlie about 7 seconds longer than it takes me, which gives me just that much more time to catch the bus in the morning. But I lose it back again on the way because my shoelaces always come undone, and Charlie's don't. He ties his for keeps, and they're as neat as a sailor's knot. When he was about 3, Charlie learned how to dress himself, and after the war, the habit persisted. He does it alone from the first sock to the final tilt of his hat. The vest, instead of buttoning up in the regular way, hooks together for convenience sake. Charlie can handle buttons, but the hooks are time savers. In a world where the tendency has always been to streamline time, they're a forecast of the zipper vest that you and I'll be wearing when Hirohito and Hitler are things you talk about only in the past tense, like Dillinger and Model Ts. There's no magic in Charlie's dexterity. Controls lead from the artificial extremities to the shoulders, and manipulation of the shoulder muscles operates the hooks. And he can wind that watch as easily as he can throw a baseball. Next, his wallet, which he won pitching horseshoes. Then his glasses. He polished them when he took them off last night. Finally, his coat. And if there were some fluff on the lapel, he'd pick it off. A pencil in the wrong pocket, back it goes into the right one. And he does all these things as automatically as he'd turn a doorknob. Feeding himself is another lifetime habit that my neighbor McGonegal was determined to hang on to when he came back from France. In the hospital, and for a time afterwards, he felt uncomfortable being fed by someone else. And the first thing he set out to master was the knack of eating. Now watch him at breakfast and see how well he succeeds. You know, it's McGonegal's boast that there isn't an inch of McGonegal waistline that he didn't put there himself. One or two companies manufacture special knives and forks and glasses, coffee cups, designed for such cases as Charlie's. But he doesn't even know where to buy them, and he never bothered to find out. He manages very well with the same utensils that he'd find in a restaurant. For a while, during what Charlie called his amateur days, it seemed as if it took him all day to eat. That wasn't for long, though. You should see him wolf a meal at my place, especially when it's porterhouse steak, medium rare. You notice that sometimes he makes adjustments before certain operations? Well, these are to change the width or the tension or the angle. Charlie can still remember when wanting a smoke meant getting the aid of a nurse or the man with the wounded leg in the adjoining cot. Lying in the hospital, thinking and wondering, planning for the future, a fella somehow needed a cigarette more than he used to. So smoking was the next thing he got after. And nowadays, the only difficulty he has with cigarettes is staying away from them. Well, the Dodgers won a doubleheader. How about that? Now, let's see. 6 players and the manager were yanked from yesterday's game at Ebbets Field. Off to work. And here's another neighbor of mine, Walter Antonowitz. Morning, Walter. Can I drop you off someplace? No, thanks. Walter likes walking. Well, suit yourself, fella. See you tonight for some ping pong. There's nothing unusual about this car. It's a stock model and no special gadgets. Ignition. Starter. Into gear. And away. Oh, I forgot to mention about Walter, who likes to walk. Lost both legs in the other war. Charlie has a good job. Better job than most men. And by the way, he never learned to type until he came out of the hospital. Needless to say, he used a standard machine with a standard keyboard. Uh-oh, forgotten the address. Joe Morgan will know it, and that means a phone call. Now let's see, what's Joe's number? Never can remember it. Better look it up. S-P-O-M. M-A-M-O. Here we are. M-O-R, Joseph Morgan. Atwater 93459. Everyday things done with everyday ease. How long does it take a man who's lost a hand or 2 hands to resume his place in the scheme of normal living? Now, you may have heard that anything can be mastered in time. That a man practicing 4 hours a day for 6 years can learn to throw a boomerang and catch it at the end of its circular flight. That after 4 hours practice a day for, let's say, 5 years, a man can hurl a knife 50 yards and pierce a deuce of hearts pinned to a tree every time, and so on. So you may think it took Charlie, who had so much more to learn, ever since World War I, to overcome the loss of his hands, to master the normal act, for instance, of signing his name with a flourish, Charles C. McGonegal. How long? Well, let's hear what he has to say about that.
Well, it took about 3 months. I wouldn't say it was as easy then as it is today. It takes a little time to learn anything. But 3 months after I was discharged from the Walter Reed Hospital, I was on the road as a traveling salesman, not completely independent, but able to make my way. You will pick up new things as you go along. It's a matter of learning. The most important thing is the question of wanting to learn. For instance, in 1928, I was encouraged to take up flying as a hobby. After 15 hours of solo, I took a special course in acrobatics. Now I have over 300 hours flying time. I have a productive job and a happy marriage. My wife and I have 2 boys. One is in the Navy now. As a matter of fact, the loss of my arms hasn't been nearly the wallop that I thought it would be at first. With these arms, I can do practically anything that anyone can and there is no reason in the world why you fellows cannot do the same.
My neighbor, Charlie McGonegal, has none of the characteristics of a Superman. He is a man who lived normally before the war, and he set himself no goal but to live normally after it. He succeeded because he had patience. He had faith in himself, and he knew that it could be done. It took a little while, but he got there.